Well, actually, if I feel like I have no control at all, if I feel that this is really personal, I will take whatever control I have. And that might just be to be sitting in the corner, secretly pushing back in my own way. Because I can't engage with it actively, I'm going to disengage with it passive-aggressively in the corner here. And that is an element of taking control.
The question is, from Thinking Focus.
The question today is, why do some people take some of the messages and the things that are happening in change personally? Hi, I'm Rob from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Paul from Thinking Focus.
The question is, from Thinking Focus, a podcast about how we sometimes get in our own way and what we can do about it.
Oh, that's fascinating, because they do.
Yeah.
Some people take it really personally. In fact, you meet some people who, it's not that they're taking it personally, they think it's actually directed at them.
Yeah.
They think that the change is being construed in a way just to get at them. I mean, that's the most extreme, but you do see people do that. Like, the only reason this company is doing it is not to survive. They're not making this transformation to get into the 21st century. They're just doing this because they felt like it would be a good thing to make my life a little bit more difficult.
So that sounds like quite an emotional response.
It's a very emotional response. And if you think about the process we go through in change, and if you've come across this kind of change curve that starts with shock and denial and a gentle journey down to a kind of despondent acceptance of what's going on, all of that reaction is fairly emotional.
Yes.
And when we get emotional, we get very self-interested.
Right.
So actually what's happening at this point, the reason people are taking it personally is they're only looking at it through a lens that's about them.
Right, okay.
So it's a bit of a me.
Yeah.
And we're also looking at a lens that's me at a time we're threatened. So not only are we going, why is this being done to me and what's this affecting me? We're not seeing all the good things. We're just seeing all the bad things. So if you imagine looking at everything through a lens of, it's only my point of view and it's only about loss and it's only about what's being taken away from me, very quickly you can start to go, well, then that's a very negative thing for me.
Sure.
And we'll interpret that with a view that says, well, what does that mean? That means they're having a go, or they're getting at me, or they don't understand my point of view.
So something's happening in the organisation, some change is happening. I'm choosing to view it personally. I'm choosing to react or respond to it in that way. Although there might be a subconscious choice.
Yes, and I think that's the real key thing here.
Right.
Because I think it's very easy when we talk about getting people to make choices, and that's what this is about. It's about getting people to make choices. But the first step of allowing somebody to make a choice is to getting them to a place where they know actually it's a choice.
That it is a choice.
Because if you said to most people who feel like that, you're choosing to feel like this, you'll get this, no, I'm not. No, you don't understand. This is all being done, kind of reaction. Because they don't believe at this point they have any choices whatsoever.
Which is the big clue that, you are reacting emotionally to this in the first place. So you've just described this journey, right? And I giggled at that internally because it sounded like a gentle journey to despondency, whereas despondency was like, hang on a second, that's quite critical. There's various feelings that we could describe that emotional response with, couldn't we?
And the sort of it starts with a feeling of shock, a feeling of threat, a feeling of what the hell is going on?
So uncertainty.
Right. There might actually be a nice dose of denial in that. You can actually feel quite euphoric at times of change, because once you get through all of this early emotional reaction and nothing actually has changed, the world isn't different.
Right.
Because most change is coming. It's a gentle process of things changing. It's not just the world changed suddenly.
Right.
You get to this kind of denial state.
Right.
And even with really hard change, if you think about loss or the worst kind of loss, which is bereavement, it's not uncommon to see people get to this quite nice, no, I'm not accepting this has happened.
Right. So if we were to think about, if you like, and I know this is quite a general observation, but a sort of a pathway through various stages. Is there one stage that comes before another stage, which then comes before another stage that is recognisable? So if I was to, at times of change, I think to myself, I've got no idea what's going on, so uncertainty is my starting point. Would that be true to say?
So I think you can look at it from two angles. There's an emotional journey through this.
Right.
And then there's this journey that says, how do I get lost in that emotional journey? So a normal journey through this will start with some shock and a bit of denial, and you'll feel a bit uncertain and threatened.
Right.
to quite a low point. I mean,
Right.
this kind of pit of despondency that I talked about.
Yeah.
But it can, for some people, be quite a low point.
Yes.
But that low point is the turning point. It's an acceptance.
Right.
Assuming that you reach acceptance, you will then start working up the other side of this journey and looking for meaning for yourself.
Okay.
And you will be testing and trying to find out what's my role in this. Not everybody turns that corner, so to speak.
Right.
So you can very easily then get into a reaction that goes from uncertainty to a feeling of unfairness,
Right.
to a feeling of it's all going wrong and I'm not in control and my world is falling apart.
Right.
And if you get there and you don't come back from that,
Right.
you end up in this place of resistance.
Right.
Because you don't feel like you have a choice.
Okay. And
Yeah.
in fact, even if somebody with good intent tries to describe to you, and you covered this a few minutes ago, that you do have a choice, you're going,
Yeah.
resistance means you
I don't. Yeah.
you're lying
actually-
to me. I don't have any choice in this.
And if you feel like, imagine feeling that way, that this is being done to you, and you've got this view of the world that it's personal, you're going to push back.
Yeah, sure.
You're
sure.
going to fight back. What other choice do you feel you have?
Yeah.
So for me, when you see people in this stage, going back to this choices piece, it's starting to actually open up
Right.
that there are choices available to that person. There
Okay.
are. So if I'm feeling like this, I need to go and find out what my choices are.
Okay. So that's a really interesting description, because there is potentially a pathway through.
Yes.
You know, you can get stuck. You might not make it up the other side.
Yep.
The pathway could very well be, and it's a really great description, the uncertainty that I had to begin with, which just means I've got questions in my mind, because they're not treated in any way or they don't get answered in any way, could lead to me actually feeling like this is unfair.
Yes.
And I'm taking that even more personally. That's more
Yep.
of an emotional reaction. That's not treated, and treated, I'm using a medical term here for something that I don't mean to be medical, but I've got no way forward. So then that turns into this very poor feeling of I'm out of control of this.
Yep.
So then actually I could resist, because this is where the euphoria, I guess, link comes in,
Well, I
because
think
it's fighting back. You feel like you want to fight back or resist anything.
It's not that I could resist. It's that I need to do something.
Right.
I need to take some control.
Right.
So you look at resilience or hardiness. It's looking at things like, what's my purpose here? How much control do I have over this situation? You know, how do I grow and learn from this? They're very common elements of hardiness or resilience. Well, actually, if I feel like I have no control at all, if I feel this is really personal, I will take whatever control I have.
Right.
And that might just be to be sitting in the corner, secretly pushing back in
Right. Okay.
my own way.
Okay.
Because I can't engage with it actively,
Yeah.
I'm going to disengage with it nice and passive-aggressively in the corner here.
Yeah.
And that is an element of taking control.
Right. So let's think then about if you're going to help somebody with some of this, if I was responsible for leading somebody through those four very clearly defined sort of areas, if you like, or descriptors of going through that pathway, what things would help me to get from one to the next, or to break out of any of them?
There's a really nice little mnemonic here that you can remember.
Right.
Ice. Because you're trying to thaw some frosty relations.
Very
Just
good.
keep that in your head and
Okay.
remember the ice.
Okay.
So we start with I, which
Yeah.
is information.
Right.
Actually, people who are feeling uncertain, people who are feeling that this is very personal, that can often be eased and basically dealt with by ensuring people have the information they need.
That works for me, because uncertainty means to me I've got questions in my head I want answers to. You're
Yes.
providing me with information, ergo I get answers. Okay.
One little trick to this, though, actually, if I'm feeling emotional and I'm feeling personal,
Yeah.
I won't hear all of the information.
Right.
So not only do you need to provide the information, but you need to provide it consistently and repetitively.
Right. And presumably in various ways to
Yeah.
appeal to or
Yeah.
cover those bases of different emotional responses.
In various ways and from various directions as well.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
sometimes, if you're the leader or you're the manager, you might not be the best conduit for that
Right,
information.
okay, yeah.
And you might want to go, that person over there got it. I now need to help that person deliver it to the person
them
who
as
isn't
well.
getting it.
Okay.
Because they're not hearing it from me.
Right. So information, first part of ICE.
Second part of I, C, is about choices.
Okay.
So when we talk about this out of control, we talk about this ability to control the situation. If people feel they have no control over the situation, they will seek it in ways that may not be helpful.
Right.
Because we like to feel we have an element of control over our lives. So you get a choice as a leader. Are you going to allow them to seek bad control by being disruptive, by being negative, by being a little saboteur in the corner? Or are you going to engage them in choices they really have?
Right.
Now, one of the things that we notice a lot when we're working on change programs is the process of the plan often takes a lot of choice away from people.
Right.
With great intent, it's just easier if we work these things out for everybody. But actually, every time we take choices away from people, we take that sense of control away from people.
Right.
We cause them to want to resist and find choices in other places. So move as much choice back as you can.
Involve them in the plan as much as you can.
Involve them in the plan, but also just choices about what you do, where the ideas come from, how you engage that plan. There are often things in change plans that, if you actually were honest about it, are irrelevant to the outcome of the plan.
Right.
And yet some managers will take control of those and go, because they're so small decisions, we'll just make them for everybody.
Right.
Well, don't. Delegate them back down. And the example I always give is, you don't care as a change manager if you're relocating staff whether the phone is on the left or the right.
Right.
But actually, it could be quite important to that individual.
Yeah.
So don't take it away from them.
Yeah,
give them
that
a choice.
Yeah.
You don't care.
Yeah.
Just give them the choice back, because they then feel like
well,
they're
even
in
at the
control.
very top level, if an explanation or an offer can be made of, let me help you to understand that there are some choices involved in what we're going to do.
Yep.
And then what choices would you like to be involved in is in itself a choice.
Yes.
Because somebody could turn around and go, I'm choosing not to participate in that, which means you've got to do something else with them. Or, oh, okay, well, I'll participate in that. And those small crumbs of comfort that we might look at as from a leader's point of view are actually probably highly significant for those individuals, the way of describing that.
Yes.
So I get that. So ICE has got information as a starting point, choices as a second part.
The E is all about engagement.
Right.
So it's all about going, how can you engage with the people as they go through that change to
Right.
help them on that journey?
Right.
How can you engage them in the journey and with them through the journey?
Okay.
So the key here is, people don't engage in groups. People don't go through transformation and change in groups.
Right.
They go through their own private little journey.
Right.
You cannot engage people by putting them in a big room and telling them all at once.
Right.
Engagement is about one-to-one. And again, as a leader, that doesn't mean if you've got 1,000 people in your organisation that you need to go and meet all of them. It means that you need to encourage engagement to happen and cascade through that group.
Right.
And again, it's not necessarily top to bottom. Peer engagement works, but people need to be heard and work through their own personal journey. But they also need to be engaged in the journey. There are thousands of things that need to happen in your change plan. Engage people in it. Put them into steering groups. Put them into committees. And people will engage at the level that works for them.
Sure. Well, it occurs to me that if you're giving them the opportunity to be engaged, right, that's a choice. And then you're going, at what level would you like to be engaged, which is a choice that sort of takes it to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because again, we work with people and they go, well, engagement is about, I can't put everybody on the steering group. You don't need to put everybody on the steering group. Some people could just be engaged at working out how you pack the boxes or how it doesn't matter the level as long as it's the right level for that individual.
Sure. Okay.
What matters is they know what's expected of them. They get the information they need. They get able to make a choice about what they want to do, and they feel like they are part of this. They are engaged in the process. And those three things actually allow people to go through that change process normally and not get stuck into this well of despondency that ends up becoming confusion and loss of control and eventually this kind of resistance in the corner.
Okay.
Because that's quite hard to deal with.
Okay.
Whereas you can capture all this very early on and move people through this very normal process of transition from where I am to where I need to be. And it stops it becoming personal for them. It stops it becoming, you're doing this to me. Actually, we're going through this together.
Right. And I think that's a great way of summarising the whole conversation we've just had. So thank you for that. See you another time.
Thank you.
Next time on The Question Is.
But it's also actually known behaviour, isn't it? Because we're dealing with a known quantity. Anything that's to do with change and requiring us to actually do something different, that's all unknown. So part of it could actually be quite scary. Whereas we know what today is like, and being able to resist what somebody wants us to do in the future and be this victim is far more comfortable than actually choosing to try and find something different to do.
Thinking Focus works with teams and business units in organisations around the world, helping them achieve breakthroughs by enabling them to think differently. To find out more about our work and how we could help your organisation, go to www.thinkingfocus.com.
Hi, this is Paul from Thinking Focus. I just wanted to let you know that this podcast is part of a series on the myths that often occur during times of organisational change. You can find other podcasts in the series and some special resources related to these myths at thinkingfocus.com/myths.